Man, another tough loss for the Sixers. Just that was just a brutal way to go down with the way just everything was. The two timeouts by Doc Rivers, and those are the type of plays that he draws up to try, win the game. And then, the whole situation, the block by Giannis at the end on a layup by Joel Embiid, originally called a goaltending, but the refs got the right call, calling it a block. But for some reason, they decided not to reset the clock, and they decided to do a jump ball when the ball clearly went out off Giannis, to where the Sixers probably could have had 3 seconds left on the clock and could have probably inbounded the ball to possibly tie the game or even go for the win. But I'm not going to say that's where, the Sixers lost this game. Yeah, that's a brutal way to lose, definitely. But when you start the fourth quarter, you're going from the third to the fourth quarter, and you're having minutes out there without Joel Embiid and James Harden. That's where it really felt like the Sixers lost this game. That's where really Milwaukee just started to heat up, and the Sixers just were not able to recover from that loss. Why are we going minutes on the court without either of Joel Embiid and or James Harden? That's just very mind-boggling in my opinion. And just some of the plays that Doc Rivers did call up, during those final two timeouts in the last so many seconds of the game. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It definitely leaves a very, very bad taste in your mouth. And this is another back-to-back, honestly, tough losses by the Sixers, Sunday in Phoenix and now today against Milwaukee. But they battled. They definitely did. But, how many times can we really say, oh, they battled, they fought hard? You would like to at least see them win these tough kind of games, especially against these tough opponents, against teams like Milwaukee, against teams like Phoenix, against teams like Brooklyn. You would love to see these teams, this team, win tough games like that. But back-to-back tough losses, and there's still just the way you got outscored in that fourth quarter. I just thought it was way too back and forth for my liking, especially. So before we get into all of this, welcome back to TTP Sports, everyone. And if you are new to the channel, I definitely recommend hitting that subscribe button and also that like button if you're looking for the latest Philadelphia sports news, recaps, and events. I definitely recommend that. It is a great or a miserable time, depending on the outcome. Also, if you are a current viewer of the channel, I am grateful for you being here that long and looking to continue that down the road. And if you're looking for tickets to upcoming sporting events, concerts, whatever you can think of, use the code TTP Sports down below for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. So if you want to go see the Sixers down at the Wells Fargo Center, get yourself some playoffs tickets, definitely utilize that. You got opening day coming up for the Phillies. Maybe you want to go to the last games at spring training, but hey, get those opening day tickets. I definitely recommend that. Put yourself through a Flyers game, maybe. When the Eagles come back, definitely use that. Free $20 in your pocket. Use that for parking. Use that for concessions. Can't pass that up. So use the code TTP Sports down below for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek today. So looking at some of the Sixers stat lines, there were some players that definitely had a good, you got Tobias Harris having a good game. You got Joel Embiid getting 29 points. You got James Harden getting 32 points, barely bouncing back from the game against Phoenix. So yeah, some players did step up. Tyrese Maxey had himself a very sluggish game, and we really didn't see that much from the bench. We didn't see DeAndre Jordan in this game. We saw Paul Millsap instead, and he only got 9 minutes. You see guys coming off the bench. You got Shake Milton in 16 minutes, Danny Green 23, George Niang with 20. And this was probably what you're going to see more towards the playoffs, where you're not going to be seeing a lot of these bench guys, to where you're going to be seeing more of the starters out there on the floor, especially with how weak the bench is. You're going to be seeing Joel Embiid, James Harden, those guys, Tobias Harris getting a lot more minutes on the court. But what still just really bothers me is, like I said, when you go into that stretch into the third, going into the fourth quarter, to where you don't have Joel Embiid and or James Harden on the floor. And that just really felt like it killed the momentum. And that's where Milwaukee just really amped it up and really just gave it to the Sixers. And when you get into that late stage of the game where it's really just back and forth, where you get Giannis probably getting something, where you get Drew Holiday getting something, and you get Joel Embiid hitting it on the other side, George Niang hitting his late threes at the end of the game. You get Tobias Harris maybe getting some of his. But it was way too back and forth for my liking. Yes, they battled, but this game was just really lost by, not having Joel Embiid and James Harden on the court for that short period of time in the beginning of the fourth quarter, because Milwaukee just went completely off. They outscore you 37-27 in the fourth quarter. You can't get outscored. You just can't in the fourth quarter. You just can't. So looking at some of the stat lines for a lot of players, James Harden had 32 points on the night, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 9 of 17 from the floor, 4 of 10 from 3, 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Definitely a better bounce back performance by James Harden, but definitely some, late looks there. It kind of felt like there were plays that were just looked like they were forced, especially coming off of those timeouts from Doc Rivers. So really just not the best play calls driven up by Doc Rivers. So it's just, get those situations very late in the game where, surprise, surprise, Doc Rivers doesn't draw up a good play call at the end of the game after a timeout when you desperately need a good play call. And Doc Rivers, once again, does not come, full hearted with that. Surprise, surprise. And then you get Joel Embiid. He gets 29 points on the day, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal. He goes 11 of 21 from the field, 3 of 5 from 3, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. Embiid definitely did not go to the foul line a lot in this game, especially, not what we're used to in previous games, even though I'm not going to really complain about that. But still, Joel Embiid had his impact in this game. He got off to a very slow start as well, even though when the game started, he hit his couple of shots, but then he went really quiet. But then he really started to wake up more in the second half. So it was nice to see Joel Embiid at least wake up going towards the late stages of this game. Tobias Harris had himself a pretty nice game as well. 22 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 10 of 19 from the field, 2 of 8 from the 3-point line, and did go to the foul line once. But Tobias Harris, the past few games, especially against Phoenix, I thought the game against Phoenix was the best game Tobias Harris has had in a while. And I do feel like this game by Tobias Harris was definitely even better than the game against Phoenix. He also recorded 3 steals as well in this game. But you're looking at some of the other guys on the court. Tyrese Maxey had himself a very sluggish game. He was only 7 points. He got himself a -6, 6 assists with 1 rebound, 3 of 11 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. He really struggled shooting today, especially even though we're used to Tyrese Maxey, especially in the fourth quarter, hitting those clutch shots, he just wasn't getting them today. It just felt like he was a little off, especially going up against a really tough contest in the Milwaukee Bucks and the way they played defensively, the way they muck and grind. So it was a tough day for Tyrese Maxey on the floor, definitely. Matisse Thybulle, as usual, not really an impact into the offense, only getting you a measly 2 points in this game in 21 minutes, only 1 rebound, 2 steals. And then you look at some of the guys off of the bench. Niang and Danny Green both give you 9 points. Niang getting 3 threes. Basically, both of those guys, their only points contributed off of the game were from threes in this game. Niang goes 3 of 8 from the 3-point line. Danny Green goes 3 of 5. Shake Milton in his 16 minutes gives you 6 points, 3 of 5 from the field. So really just looking at this game right here, the Sixers as a team shooting wise, they shot 48%. They shot 39% from the field. And it kind of felt like they were getting fouled way too much. They were just taking way too many fouls for my liking as well. The Sixers getting fouled 19 times while the Milwaukee Bucks, they were more disciplined, I would say. Even though they only had 2 less fouls, they only got fouled 17 times. And really, it was just a big back and forth game. Milwaukee, they shot 50% from the field. They shot 36% from 3. So it basically was just very, 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 very back and forth. And Milwaukee just really woke up because the Sixers were more of the better team in that first half, especially in the second quarter. But when you get into that second half, going towards the late stages of the third, into that early stages of the fourth quarter, it was really when Milwaukee woke up. When you don't have Joel Embiid and James Harden on the court, that's when they really take over the game. That's when the Sixers kind of lose some of their momentum. And then you're basically just going through that back and forth sequence like we saw basically in the final 5 minutes of the game. It was an exciting game, not going to lie. It was a very exciting game. Giannis had himself a game. He had 40 points on the night, 14 rebounds, 6 of 6, 16 of 24 from the field. So Giannis basically did his thing, and he's normally going to do his thing. Yeah, Middleton getting 22 points as well. Brook Lopez getting 17. Drew Holiday getting 18 points. Really, their bench wasn't a factor. They're just starters were going off, especially Giannis just had himself a game tonight. And that's what Giannis is going to do. He's going to do his thing, especially in clutch time. It just sucks that, especially like with that late sequence where it was originally a goaltend, but which was the right call, changing it to a block on Giannis. But it just kind of, it's a weird situation on that standpoint, just because they have to force to take the jump ball and they don't put more time back on the clock, because I think when the ball went out of bounds, it was like around it had to be around 2.5 to 3 seconds left on the clock when Giannis blocked the ball and then it went out of bounds. So I kind of felt like, even though, like I said, that's not the reason why the Sixers lost this game. They lost this game just because Joel Embiid and James Harden were not on the court for that extended period of time in the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's where you really lost it. But it kind of sucks just the way it ended like that, just because, kind of got screwed over with the clock and, the play call right there with the refs not putting time back on the clock. But I'm not going to blame it entirely on. I'm not going to really blame anything on that ending sequence. It was just an unfortunate series of events. The way the rules work with the NBA, with, a review like that, it has to go to a jump ball, even though it should have been an inbound ball for the Sixers. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And you made your mistakes. You stabbed yourself in the foot a lot of times in this game as well. Doc Rivers made some mistakes on the play calling, not drawing up some good plays, on the timeouts at the end of the game, where you probably could have at least put the game away, or at least go up late to force Milwaukee to try to win the game and not put yourself in a bad position to try to win the game as well. Just because it kind of felt like there were some forced plays coming off of those timeouts. James Harden forcing a three, probably when he shouldn't have taken it. And Joel Embiid, I thought he did the right move. I know some people I saw on Twitter saying he probably should have dunked the ball, but I think Joel Embiid did the right thing just because he was getting scrambled right there, basically under the net in the paint. And I felt like he did the right thing to lay up. It just kind of felt like a lot of things during those sequences were rushed, especially after the first time out. The way Joel Embiid just came up into the paint and just took that fadeaway jumper just kind of felt like a little rushed. Try to take your time coming out of the timeout, get the play set up. Try to find a way, just to hit it. You don't have to rush. I know there's 30 seconds left on the clock. That's still plenty of time to hit something, especially when the game is as close as it is. So, looking at the standings right now and basically the rest of the schedule for the Sixers, it's going to be, a weird one just because of the way the standings are just, moving back and forth so many times. So right now with this loss, the Sixers move to 46-29. They are fourth place in the Eastern Conference. They're basically a game and a half back of first place, behind Boston, behind Milwaukee, and now behind Miami. Right now, Miami, they take sole possession of first place. Milwaukee's in second place, but basically a half game behind them. And the Boston Celtics are a game behind the Miami Heat for first place, as they are sitting in third. So looking at the upcoming Sixers schedule, because there's not that many games left, I believe there's like 7 or 8 games left on the schedule. And the schedule definitely does get a lot easier for the Sixers team. They don't have that much tough competition coming up left. You got this Thursday against Detroit in Detroit. You got a back-to-back, a home and a road game on Saturday and Sunday. You got Saturday at home against Charlotte. You got Sunday on the road against Cleveland. And then you basically have two Indiana games to close out the season. You got a game against Toronto, and you got another game against Detroit. So really not that many games left. Just 7 games left in the season, and then you're basically going into the playoffs, wherever this team is going to finish in the seeding, whoever they're going to play in the first round. It's going to be interesting to see the way this season close is out. I would like, there would be some games I would like to see Joel Embiid get some more rest. Same thing with James Harden. Just, they're fully rested for the playoffs. They're not going in there, banged up and all that stuff, because, the hamstring is probably still an issue with James Harden. The back soreness and the back tightness is probably still going to be a thing with Joel Embiid. I would like to get those guys as rested as much as possible. But I know with the way the standings are just constantly flip-flopping, I feel like the Sixers are going to focus more on trying to get the right placement in the standings to try, find the matchup that probably benefits them the most. Because when you're looking at matchups, who are you going to be facing in the first round? Are you going to be facing a team like Toronto? Are you going to be facing a team like the Brooklyn Nets, Cleveland, or anything like that? There's a lot of things to look into like that. It's going to be very interesting to see the way the season ends right there. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this game. Are you disappointed in the way it ended? Are you, not as mad just because it was more of a back and forth type of situation? Are you mad they lost another close game? Are you, pissed off at Doc Rivers for his play calling and not putting Joel Embiid and James Harden on the court in that fourth quarter to start it off? So I want to hear all those thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. I'd like to hear those as always. Don't forget to drop a like on this video. Don't forget to check out the panel lines, which I'm a part of. The links are down in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out the links to BrodesMedia, the Florida Pod merch website, and also Flyers Nitty Gritty. All that good stuff is down in the description below. Do not forget to check those out. And like I said at the beginning of the video, the most important thing you can do is hit that sub button and also use the code TTPSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. And I will see you next time.